Scumbag Spotlight.
This may be my favorite segment of the show, Scumbag Spotlight, where I get hopefully to bring to justice someone who's been hiding under people being too afraid to tell the truth out of fear of getting sued. You know how it works in this country that even if you know some really bad stuff about someone who's ripping off the public, if you're the one who goes out and says that person's a liar, that person's a cheater, you have to worry about being sued for defamation. And even if you're telling the truth, who has the money and the time to go through a lawsuit over defamation? Anyway, I find myself in this situation again through a couple of tragedies. After my daughter's death, I didn't want my wife, who's much younger than me, to have to go through hassles when I pass. So I put everything in her name. I own absolutely nothing. Now, yes, that requires a great deal of trust. Uh, of your spouse. But I've thought this out, carefully. So the point is, all I really have in the world is the right to live in my house to the rest of my life. And the benefit of it is there's nothing to sue. I'm kind of like Rudy Giuliani that way. And because I live in Costa Rica, I'm really hard to serve as well. And that's when why I can come right in and tell you that John Katzman, the founder of the Princeton Review, is a liar who steals children's futures. And now I'm going to tell you how I know that and and to prove everything that I say. So my story begins in 2011. It was Christmas time, and I was in a Barnes and Nobles getting a book gift wrapped. And the Barnes and Nobles had very smartly got PTA moms to man the gift wrapping table. So they didn't have to pay them. They promised the PTA all the tips from the tip jar. And I was there, and clearly the women at that table were frazzled, had been there for hours for about $3 in the tip jar. And I felt bad for them. So I proposed very quickly while I was getting my book gift wrapped that I might give, as I had been doing regularly at that point, one of my free presentations at their school, teaching all of the students in the school my secrets for a perfect SAT score, my SAT 54, my SAT Codebreaker 54, rather, as I call it. 54 rules, follow the rules, practice, guaranteed a 1530 or better SAT. And I was offering it to the woman behind the desk at the Barnes and Nobles, the PTA mom, as an alternative where you can make more money with less stress, and I'll do the work for you. And I quickly get one of those New York City glances because nobody trusts anything in New York and nobody gives anything away just to be nice in New York. And she gives me one of those looks. And at that very moment, I get a tap on my shoulder. The woman in back of me in line asks, "Wait a minute, are you Harvey the college wizard?" Which was astonishing because I didn't have a podcast. I wasn't written up as much as I am years ago in 2011. So I'm thinking, how would you know that? And she said, "Well, I work for John Katzman, the founder of the Princeton Review, and we've seen your ads for that unlimited tutoring for package price, and he can't understand how you can do it and stay in business." That's the truth. He can't understand. So I said, "Well, maybe I can meet him." And I wrote him this email. He agreed to meet. And in the course of that meeting, I told him how I could guarantee the score that he couldn't because I had a system and he didn't. I said, and he goes, "Well, what do you mean?" And I said, "Well, let's start here. There's a one sentence rule, which basically means if you match every word of the correct answer to any reading question, and this is the SAT, the ACT, the PSAT, the LSAT, it's a very mathematically based infallible system. In fact, I'll give anybody who uses this rule and doesn't get a right answer in a real SAT question $100,000. That's how sure I am. So anyway, I told the rule to John Katzman, and he said he didn't believe it. It couldn't be that simple, he said. And so we sat there going through the College Board book. This is in 2011. They had the big blue book of all the tests, reading question after reading question after reading question. And after about an hour, John Katzman looked up at me and said, "Well, Harvey, I guess I could say our systems are cousins of one another, but to be honest, I would be your very stupid cousin. And I'd like to make an army of Harveys to change the way SAT tutoring is done in the country." And I turned him down for a number of reasons, but the point is I turned him down, but he said what he said. And it was probably the best compliment I've ever gotten, right? It's like walking into the Ford Motor Company CEO's office with a little engine you've been putzing around with in your garage, and they're like, "This is better than anything we've got to sell," right? So, of course, it was something I would never forget. And then about a year and a half ago, I put the story as I'm telling it now up on YouTube. And 9 months after that, I get a cease and desist letter from John Katzman's attorney claiming that it's all a lie, that everything I'm saying is a lie. And I know it's not a lie. And I basically set him up because he thought I was living in New York. I set up his attorney and to get to a point where I could sort of make them almost admit that they were lying, And I sent this horrible letter to John Katzman's attorney, who had told me up and down, I really shouldn't be talking to you without your attorney. Well, guess what happened at the end of this? John Katzman sends me an email where he says, basically, what did I ever do to you? And my lawyer didn't do anything to you. And all I'm saying is that when somebody worth that much money sends you a cease and desist letter with the threat of a lawsuit, most people will just take the darn thing down and leave everybody in the dark. Because the worst part, and here's the scumbag part, John Katzman knows very well that the way I teach is the right way. And I have made overtures over the years, which I approve of on LinkedIn, to say, let's do something good for the American students. You say you want to bridge, you want to combat inequality. Let's give this thing away to everybody. And if you all support it, it'll go much better. And by the way, I am doing that. If you have a school, if you're a principal, if you get your principal, I'll give millions of dollars of my course away. I'll support it because this is the right way to do it. And John Katzman knows it. And all I'm pretty sure is that he must have signed a codicil of some kind when he sold the Prince Review. It's a standard practice where he's in trouble if he badmouths the former company. So I really think that's what he's afraid of, that when I reveal what he said and people know it, then maybe people will stop spending money on the Prince Review, because the truth is the system sucks. It's not even a system. It doesn't get you anywhere. And John Katzman himself is charging $1,000 an hour for the system that he knows is Harvey's stupid cousin. And that's why John Katzman is a liar who's stealing children's futures. And John Katzman, you are featured in the crosshairs of Scumbag Spotlight.